Coming up on News Live at 6, Trans Week of Liberation kicks off with a makeup session. What Trans Week of Liberation means and what events will be hosted throughout the rest of the week.
Plus, an increase in fentanyl overdoses in the area, where children and infants play a role in the numbers.
And Syracuse women's basketball is tipping off its biggest game in 3 years right now against Connecticut, with a spot in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament up for grabs. News Live at 6 starts right now.
This is CitrusTV News Live at 6, your campus news leader.
Good evening and welcome into News Live at 6. I'm Bradley Hoppenstein.
And I'm Maddie Stelk. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's get right to our top story.
And that top story, Maddie, would be Syracuse women's basketball. We start tonight looking at that women's basketball game, which just started in the Dome. The Orange are facing UConn tonight for the NCAA tournament. Here to talk more about that women's win against Arizona this past Saturday and that game tonight is our sports anchor, Sam Reis. Good evening, Sam.
Hey, good evening, Bradley. Thanks so much. That's right. In the end, Syracuse did come out on top in Saturday's first-round matchup against Arizona, but it actually wasn't always looking pretty for the Orange. They were actually playing from behind for a large majority of the contest, but then late on in the final quarter, it was Deasia Fair who absolutely took over this game and scored SU's final 13 points of the game, including an 11-0 run all by herself. She ended up finishing with 32 points, which set a program record for most by a Syracuse player in an NCAA tournament game. Later on in the show, I'll take you through Fair's incredible takeover at the end of that game to get the win for Syracuse. And as great as that victory was, Syracuse didn't have much time to celebrate because, as Bradley mentioned, they're taking on UConn right now in the second round. The Huskies are red hot. They come in on a 10-game win streak and have outscored their opponents this season by an average of 25 points. So later on in the show, I'll give you a live update on how the Orange are doing down in stores. Guys, that's all from me for now. A massive game for Syracuse women's basketball happening right now, and that might be an understatement. We'll see if they can pull off the upset.
All right, Sam, thank you so much. We'll be following that UConn game. Let's keep things here on campus, where it's a busy week. SU's kicking off its Trans Week of Liberation. Live in our Shine Student Center tonight to tell us more about a makeup workshop going on and some of the other events this week is our Isabella Galan. Good evening, Isabella.
Thanks, Bradley. I'm currently at the Intercultural Collective, where the LGBTQ Resource Center is hosting a makeup workshop to kick off Trans Week of Liberation. Now, the national event is known as Trans Day of Visibility. However, the the LGBTQ Resource Center, believes that visibility is not enough and that more needs to be done for transgender liberation. I am currently here with the facilitator of tonight's makeup session, Tommy Da Silva. Tommy, thank you so much for joining me. Why did you decide to kick off this week's celebrations with a makeup session?
So makeup has just historically been something that's been really gender affirming for trans individuals and the queer community in general. A lot of people use makeup in order to hide features, but also to accentuate features. And especially for trans people, it can be just a really affirming space to have a lot of makeup and do makeup with friends.
Awesome. I love that. And this week is such an important week to celebrate. And why do you think it is important that Syracuse University celebrates and promotes Trans Week of Liberation?
I think it's important just because transness doesn't look or sound one very particular way. A lot of times people have a very particular image of what trans people look like, and that's just not the case. So having Trans Week of Liberation, where all trans people are celebrated, is something that the university can do to really promote trans people just existing and living their lives authentically as themselves.
Yeah, and the LGBTQ Resource Center definitely does a lot for students on campus. What are some other ways that students can get involved with the LGBTQ Resource Center?
So the Resource Center has an Instagram. You can follow that. That's where they post any events that are going on. Some ones that are coming up later this week. There's the Trans Week of Liberation creative space on Friday. There's the open mic night on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have a speaker coming in to talk about her experience and her writing her book. Some other things that the Resource Center just does is affinity groups, which happen at night. And then a few other things that are going on this semester, like queer prom and lavender graduation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tommy. I'm reporting live for CitrusTV News, Isabella Galan. Guys.
And thanks, Bella. The makeup workshop is just one of many events that are happening on campus this week. The LGBTQ Resource Center is hosting numerous events spanning from panel discussions to open mic nights, and here's a full list of them on your screen. For more information about Trans Week of Liberation, visit the LGBTQ Resource Center in Shine or the Syracuse University website.
And new details tonight, a traffic alert for your commute this week. The on-ramp to I-81 is shutting down. Drivers will take a detour from the airport to South Bay Road as crews start to work on some bridge repairs. Plus, traffic on I-481 southbound will be crossed over to northbound lanes between the area south of the bridge over the CSX rail yard and exit 4 in DeWitt. The construction will begin tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Drivers are being asked to use caution when traveling through those work zone areas.
And the Cathedral Academy at Pompeii will be closing at the end of the 2024 academic year. The diocese says that declining enrollment and financial difficulties are the reasons for the shutdown of the school on McBride Street. Staff at the school will be working with students and families to help with the transition process and give guidance on other education options.
And police are searching for a 5-year-old girl tonight. Her mother, 29-year-old Latasha Mott, is being charged for intentionally hurting, killing, and hiding the body of her daughter. Police are looking in the woods and fields behind an apartment building on Salt Springs Road. Mott beat her child in January, and the search started after a relative noticed the girl was missing. Mott's being charged with manslaughter in the first degree and concealment of a corpse. She was in court this morning and is now being held without bail.
And a man was found naked and covered in blood in the backyard of a home on Elmhurst Avenue yesterday evening. Police say that just before 7 p.m. last night, someone called to report that there was a man who was unconscious and not breathing in a backyard. Lieutenant Malinowski confirmed the death. The only detail we have is that the man was middle-aged. This investigation is ongoing.
And fentanyl overdoses have become a major issue among children and infants in the Syracuse area over the past few weeks. Here in studio to break down that situation as well as what's being done to solve these issues is our Harrison Calder. Good evening, Harrison.
Bradley, good evening. Last week, the city of Syracuse had to deal with another fentanyl overdose, and this time an 11-month-old. The infant was revived on Narcan and is still in recovery. Overdoses like this have become a problem in central New York for many children. 2-year-old Malaya Blue died in April of 2023, and just 3 weeks ago, another child, 11 years old, lost his life. These are some of the rising dangers that have been shown when opioids have been exposed to children. Fentanyl overdoses can cause people to stop breathing and become unresponsive, which is dangerous and potentially life-threatening. A child is automatically more vulnerable to the effects of the drug because they're smaller and they will need a smaller amount for that injury to occur. A study done by the Upstate New York Poison Center said that we've seen about 15 times the amount of deaths from children aged 1 to 4 as we have in past years. So the Poison Center medical director at Upstate Medical Center wrote in a statement about the best ways to prevent these overdoses, and he said the best way to prevent overdoses from happening is to not have any fentanyl or any recreational substance available to a child. Any dangerous substances should be stored up and away in a locked cabinet in the home. Always store medications and or drugs up, away, and preferably in a medicational lockbox. If there's any opioids in the home, Naxalone should be available in the event of an emergency, end quote. So both Narcans and Naxalone have become popular methods in order to save many lives in case of an overdose. The deaths of these 2 children and the revival of an infant has become one of the largest health issues for those in the recent Syracuse area. To help prevent any future incidents, the Onondaga County Health Department website can provide free Narcans or a number to call in case of emergency. Maddie, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Harrison, thank you. And the solar eclipse is just 2 weeks away, and here's how you can prepare to watch it here in central New York. The New York State Department of Transportation will have crews and resources out in the force to help people get to where they need to be both before, during, and after the eclipse. They are urging people to arrive at their destinations early and to stay safe on the roads. Experts recommend that you wear your safety solar eclipse glasses when looking up at the sun. And Bradley, hopefully by then we'll see some good weather because right now I'm just fed up with it.
Yeah, we've had enough, but today wasn't too bad. The sun was out.
Major
today.
meltdown. There was like snow melting from my car, from the trees. I had to like watch my head or else I was gonna get like water all over me.
Yeah, well, the lake effect a few weeks ago was terrible.
Yes.
But if we see the sun 2 weeks from today, if it's anything like today, We should have a pretty good view of that eclipse here in central New York.
Yes.
Now, he doesn't have it 2 weeks out, but he's got 3 days for us right now. Tyler, what can we expect coming up?
Well, I can expect a lot of things, but going off for just our weather for right now, 47 degrees outside. As you said earlier, it's been pretty warm out there. The snow has been melting, getting that drip down effect you guys have just mentioned with a lot of the slipping and falling, but that might be continuing throughout the rest of the week because as we go into tonight, our current temperatures around the area are going to be, just and around the same kind of region. 50s in some areas with, 50s in some areas with Rome having 43 degrees, Fulton with 48, and Binghamton sitting down there at the 52. But we have a pretty wide variety of temperatures just kind of all disseminating throughout the area. Now, tonight is where things are going to be dripping down a little bit. We saw that colder weather at last night with a 30 degrees approximately, and that's coming back again with a vengeance with some slight clouds. Now, the jury is out what exactly we'll be seeing throughout the rest of the week. Some say there's going to be some sun, and others there's going to be a lot of rain. So as the week goes on, we're going to have more updates, but back to you guys on that.
Catch a break, Bradley.
No, we can't, but let's hope things start trending upwards soon. It's almost April. Upstate University's hospital leaders are laying the groundwork for a big transformation. The hospital's CEO and president talking with state lawmakers and local leaders about possible renovations to Upstate's main building, especially the hospital's emergency room, which Upstate's emergency department chief says needs to be 4 times larger than it is right now. The plans are not official yet, but of course, any renovations would likely cost hundreds of millions of dollars and take a few years to implement.
And sticking with your health news tonight, a case of measles has been confirmed on Long Island. Last week, the highly contagious respiratory disease was contracted by an unvaccinated child. Officials say that anyone who was in the ER waiting room and treatment area in New Hyde Park could be at risk, and the Long Island Health Department is closely investigating this event. Officials say unvaccinated people have a 90% chance of becoming infected if exposed. And coming up next, a major victory in court today for Trump, what the next legal steps are for the former president.
Plus, more fallout for Boeing, the announcement today from its top executives in the wake of its ongoing safety problems. Stay with us.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures. The walls were closing in. Clearly, a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. And there's a lot of that going around right now. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It might not get you out of the house, but it could help you find a little more breathing room.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching CitrusTV News live at 6 with Bradley Hoppenstein, Maddie Stelk, and Tyler Oldano. Now, your campus news leader continues.
Welcome back to News Live at 6. Former President Donald Trump was back in New York court this morning. The judge in his hush money case says that trial will start April 15th, Maddie. Meanwhile, in his civil fraud case, Trump and his co-defendants now have 10 days
to post a reduced bond of $175 million. That's down from the nearly $500 million that was originally due today.
Now, Bradley, Trump's lawyers asked the court to either reduce the amount he owed or delay the payment while he appealed the decision. Today's late ruling is a major victory for the former president. Trump's attorney says coming up with the bond would be practically impossible.
A bill signed today by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis will result in Florida having one of the country's most restrictive social media bans for minors. The bill will ban social media accounts for children under 14 and require parental permission for 15 and 16-year-olds. Several states have considered similar legislation.
And Republican Speaker Paul Renner says that he expects social media companies to sue right after this bill is signed. The bill overwhelmingly passed in the Florida House and Senate, with even some Democrats joining the Republican majority in support. The bill will take effect January 1st.
The latest now for Boeing, a major development for the troubled airline manufacturer. This morning, CEO David Calhoun said he will be leaving the company by the end of the year. Now, this is the latest in a series of shakeups at the company after recent incidents and investigations exposing quality control and culture issues.
And Boeing's chairman and head of its commercial plane unit are also leaving after years of issues for the company, mainly with its 737 MAX line. That's the jet that had fatal crashes in 2018 and 19, and most recently had a door plug blow out on that Alaska Airlines flight back in January. The problems have led to multiple groundings of Boeing jets for safety issues and more than $31 billion in cumulative losses for the company.
And the latest in the Middle East now, the UN approved a new ceasefire resolution today. The agency is demanding an immediate end to the violence in Gaza during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which ends on April 9th. The proposal comes after Russia and China vetoed a U.S.-backed resolution last week.
Now, the U.S. is warning the new resolution, which is backed by Russia and China, could hurt long-term negotiations. The U.S. did not vote on the UN resolution, with one official saying Israel and the U.S. are waiting for Hamas to respond to a proposal that was worked out in Qatar over the past several days.
And coming up, I'll have your 5-day forecast on News Live at 6.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
From the CitrusTV Weather Center, this is SU's most accurate weather forecast.
Welcome back to News Live at 6. I'm here with your 5-day forecast. If you look at our Tuesday weather, it's going to be pretty sunny outside. Some light clouds going to kind of come in and take over as the day goes on. But just like today, it's going to be decently warm with 51 degrees is the high and only 30 degrees is the low. That's going to be mainly coming in at night when, of course, the sun disappears and the clouds just kind of encroach the land. Now on Wednesday, we're going to be seeing a little bit of rain. Not too much. There's only about a 50% chance of it, which sounds a lot like a lot in the real world, but there's no guarantee that it's actually going to hit us at this point. We're still kind of looking at that. 56 is the high and 44 as the low, so that's going to kind of continue on. Thursday and Friday, we're seeing about roughly the same with, still that sunlight going to come and hit us with the highs of 50s and the 60s with 45 on Friday, kind of dipping that temperature down a small amount. And of course, Saturday, we're having that wonderful 47 degrees in those showers that we all know and love. If you take a look at our clear day radar, though, this is what it's going to be looking like around tomorrow. Not many clouds, honestly. Just a lot of scattered showers up to the north of us, and it's going to be pretty clear outside. Just spend the day, enjoy your time, and just have a blast. Back to you guys.
All right, Tyler, not quite there yet, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel for temperatures here in CNY.
I really hope so.
Let's get to a consumer alert now. Chick-fil-A is taking back its decade-old pledge, no antibiotics ever. The fast food chain will now saying it will embrace a standard known as, quote, no antibiotics important to human medicine. This comes after Tyson, one of the largest poultry distributors, restarted using antibiotics in their chicken.
And both companies say it's a supply issue, but these antibiotics are used to promote growth in livestock, so it won't affect our health.
And Maddie, we are two avid Chick-fil-A eaters, and I don't really mind this too much, but my question is, do you think the taste of the chicken will change?
That is a really good point because, I mean, my mouth is watering looking at this behind us right now, so clearly this doesn't affect me that much to hear. But yeah, I hope the taste of the chicken isn't affected, or else I'll be very sad because it is very good,
We'll have to see.
in my opinion.
The fries and mac and cheese, no doubt, will not be affected.
Yeah, that is true, so I guess we have that just in case.
All right, let's get to Sam
Yes.
and sports.
Hey, thanks so much, Bradley. I love talking Chick-fil-A, but I also like talking Syracuse women's basketball. And after a down-to-the-wire win on Saturday, they now have a chance to do something it hasn't accomplished in 8 years, and that's make it past the second round of the NCAA tournament. That and a whole lot more is coming up next in sports.
And now, your Citrus TV Sports Report.
The last time Syracuse women's basketball made it to the NCAA tournament 3 years ago, its season came to an end at the hands of Connecticut in the second round. This time, the team that stands in the way of SU's first trip to the Sweet 16 in 8 years, you guessed it, Connecticut. Welcome into sports. I'm Sam Reis. While most of the attention is rightly on Syracuse women's basketball and its March Madness clash with UConn that's going on right now, we'll save the best for last and start things off first on the turf because Syracuse men's lacrosse took an hour trip out west to face its longtime rival Hobart over the weekend. And let's just say that journey out to Geneva turned out to be a successful one as the Orange came out on top 13-7 over the Statesmen. The Qs did start out a bit slow, but ended up outscoring Hobart 7-2 in the second half to pull away. And listen to this, we didn't have one long pole goal. We had two long pole goals from Billy Dwan, who stole the show offensively with a couple of goals, and attackman Christian Muley also notched a hat trick. Saturday marked the 109th all-time meeting between the Orange and the Statesmen. and Syracuse has simply dominated the rivalry lately, taking home its 10th consecutive Krause-Simmons Trophy. So the men's lacrosse team won its 5th straight to improve to 9-2 with that victory. And another team that has done plenty of winning lately, well, that's Syracuse women's lacrosse. 7th-ranked SU visited 9th-ranked Virginia on Saturday, looking to remain unblemished in ACC play. Let's get to the highlights because the Cavaliers actually jumped out to a 5-1 lead early on in this game, but the Orange scored 4 unanswered, and back and forth these teams would go. We take you to the 4th quarter because that's when Virginia actually held a 2-goal lead in this one early on in the frame. And then Olivia Adamson scored with about 13 minutes left. That made it 14-13. And then later on, Maddie Baxter, the Canadian, she scored a 5th. We don't got these specific highlights rolling, but I'm telling you how it all went down. That was a career high for Baxter. And then Emma Tyrell would score the dagger with about 5.5 minutes left. 15-14, Syracuse prevailed as the Orange held on for the win to make it 4 in a row, and they're a perfect 5-0 in ACC play. Next up, SU returns to non-conference action on Wednesday when it hosts Loyola at 4. So both lacrosse programs are inching a bit closer to the postseason, but one team here on the Hill enjoying postseason success right now is Syracuse women's basketball. In its first NCAA appearance in 3 years, 11th seeded SU took on 6th seeded Arizona on Saturday in the first round, and boy was this one a nail biter. We take you to the 4th quarter because this was when a whole lot of drama happened, and it was the Deasia Fair show. You see a pull-up jumper here. She gets it to go. Later on, it's Fair again. She scores once more. She ended this game scoring SU's last 13 points and went on an 11-0 run all by herself. Syracuse actually trailed for the large majority of this one, but they get the win 74-69. Here's what Felicia Leggett-Jack, head coach of Syracuse, had to say after Saturday's nail-biting victory.
Well, the first thing I needed to be encouraged because I was like, what are we doing? Are we throwing this game or what? I mean, and my coaches were like, we got this. Next play. What's the next play? And they kept me thinking about next play stuff. And we can't control what we can't control. Whether the ball goes in or not, we can defend. And so we decided that we're going to stretch our defense a little bit and then, stick with those guys and bring them back into the zone and give us an opportunity to shorten the game up a little bit because we thought that, they were getting a little bit tired.
Well, being tired is something Syracuse cannot afford if it wants to advance to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2016. That's because SU is back in action right now against 3rd-seeded UConn down in Stores at Gamble Pavilion, the home of the Huskies. This game tipped off just a little while ago at 6. It is currently a very close game, a 2-point game at the end of the first. You can follow our CitrusTV women's basketball reporter, Andrew Della Piana, on Twitter at Deli_5 for all updates and for complete coverage. He's on site from Stores. Guys, this won't be an easy task for the Orange to take down the Huskies. They're big underdogs, but so far they're sticking around. That's all I have from sports. What a big game this is for Syracuse women's basketball.
A big game for sure, and we'll be tuning in definitely. But when we come back, Tyler Oldano with your Wake Up Weather.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse,
Yes.
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
tomorrow morning. Guys, back to you with the desk.
That's all for tonight. I'm Maddie Stelk.
And I'm Bradley Hoppenstein. Have a
Good
good
night.
night. Talking points in an hour.
Woo!
Yes.